Good morning. I'm the Reverend Denise Gouch. My pronouns are she, her, and as your assistant minister, it is my pleasure to welcome you to worship with the First Unitarian Universalist Church of Nashville during this holiday season. As Unitarian Universalists, our spiritual paths vary, but in this congregation, we have made a covenant together. We affirm our interdependence, celebrate our differences, and work for justice. We are a welcoming congregation, and we deepen our relationships as we serve our congregation's mission to create community, nurture spiritual growth, and act on our values in the broader world, guided by reason and compassion. Our guest this morning is a Middle Tennessee neighbor with whom many of you may be familiar, the Rabbi Rami Shapiro. Rabbi Rami is an author, teacher, and speaker on liberal Judaism and contemporary spirituality, and it is my pleasure to welcome him back for this service. I want to extend a special welcome also to visitors worshiping with us this morning. If you are seeking a spiritual home, we hope that you may find it here. If you have questions about our congregation, please contact me. You can find my email address in the staff directory under Contact Us on our website, and I look forward to hearing from you. If you are joining us for the live broadcast of this service on Webinar Jam, won't you please say hello in the chat? We love knowing you're here. No matter what platform you're using to join us, you can find helpful resources such as the order of service, ways to give, and access to the social hour following the service in the worship portal on our website, firstuunash.org. Thank you for joining us for worship.
Good morning. My name is Elaine Bailey Freed, and I'm co-chair of the worship committee at our church. Today, I'm filling in for Jay Tiffenbrun, who's on vacation for a couple of weeks. Our opening song today is Spirit of Life by Carolyn McDade. This very personal prayer has become well-loved and much sung by UU congregations all over the world. I invite you to open your hearts to extend this prayer, this direct request of spirit, to our beloved community, our friends, our neighbors, and our world. Please join me in singing Spirit of Life.
Spirit of life, come unto me. Sing in my heart all the stirrings of compassion. Blow in the come to me, come to me.
Good morning. Our call to worship comes from Laura Wallace. As frozen earth holds the determined seed, this sacred space holds our weariness, our worry, our laughter, and our celebration. Let us bring seed and soul into the light of thought, the warmth of community, and the hope of love. Let us see together, hear together, love together. Let us worship. And our chalice lighting is by Laura Thompson. Across the distance, the light from within me shines, sending love to all. Across the distance, your light is fuel that warms me and helps to keep my own light burning. Together, we keep the flame of community burning bright.
The Silence of Bunches Schweig, adapted from a story by Y.L. Peretz. Here on Earth, the death of Bunches Schweig went unnoticed. In heaven, however, it was a cosmic event. Here on Earth, Buncha was born, no one noticed, no one cared, no one celebrated. And when he died, nobody mourned. Indeed, the flimsy marker that was placed on his grave that at least had his name on it blew over in the wind, and the grave digger's wife found the wood on the ground, crushed it up, and used it for kindling when she was boiling potatoes. On earth, he meant nothing. In heaven, however, his death was greeted with the sound of trumpets. Even the Messiah blew his shofar to welcome the soul of this amazing saint. As Bunch's soul entered heaven, 2 angels greeted him. They sat him on a golden throne, and they placed a golden crown on his head. Father Abraham came to see him, and he hugged him over and over and over again. Buncha was confused, even frightened. He said to himself, maybe I'm dreaming this. Maybe I'm dreaming this as I'm actually going to hell. But it wasn't a dream. Behold, Buncha the Silent, the angels called out as he was ushered before God. Buncha the Silent, who suffered injustice and indignity all his life and yet never complained. Abused by his mother, who fed him with food filled with maggots. Abused by his father, who threw him out of the house in the dead of winter. Abused by his wife, who gave him many children, but none were his, and left him so he would care for them all. And yet, he never said a word of complaint. Enough, said God to the angels. We all know the saint. Buncha, my son, God says to Buncha. Buncha, my son, you have a home here in heaven. You asked for nothing while you were alive. So everything will be given to you here in heaven. Just tell me what you desire, and it is yours. Anything? Buncha said. Yes, said God, anything. You've seen such suffering. Ask it of me, and I will end all the suffering of humanity. Just ask. You've seen such injustice. Just ask it of me, and I will end all injustice on earth. You have seen humanity at its worst. Just ask it of me, and I will raise humanity to its highest and its best. Ask, my son, anything you want, and I will give it to you. Buncha thought about it. What would he really want? Well, he said, my Lord, this is what I wish for. That every morning, for breakfast, I shall be given a hot roll with fresh butter. A terrible silence fell over the heavens. God and his angels bent their heads in shame at the boundless weakness they'd created on earth. Hoping to inspire prophets, they instead planted seeds of passivity. Given the chance to feed the world, their sainted Buncha could only imagine feeding himself. And then the silence was shattered as a biting, bitter laugh rose up from far below.
Friends, I'm a big proponent of the 12 days of Christmas, this time stretching between Christmas Day and the celebration on January 6th of the three kings or the wise ones arriving in Bethlehem to witness and offer gifts to the baby Jesus. The Christmas story is a big one, too big to be contained by one day, and I find this extended season a good opportunity to pause, to take time to celebrate, to rest in the dark, and to reflect. It's a good time to tend to ourselves and each other. Won't you pause with me now? Settle yourself wherever you are. Feel yourself connected with one another as we worship together. Breathe in and out. And let us join together in this Christmas prayer written by Sherry Woodbury. Spirit of life that goes by so many names, Spirit of love that has taken so many shapes on our earth over the millennia of human habitation here, we open our hearts to make room for you. With the innocence and imagination of a child, help us to hear the beauty and the magic in the Christmas story. Let us feel the love that surrounded the Holy Family and allow that love to heal the cold and unsheltered parts of ourselves, the parts that are lonely and on the road. Whatever may bring sorrow into our lives at this time, let us feel here the presence of a humble community, a community that offers warmth and a shelter from life's hardships, that offers companionship on our journeys. Spirit of hope, God of our understanding, slow our minds as we contemplate the story of a poor family, a child born homeless yet adored by wise ones, a child recognized as possessing the holiness and promise of love for which every human heart hungers and of which every human heart is capable. The Roman Empire is many centuries away from us, yet we too know what it is to live in the midst of an empire, fraught with domination of peoples and land. We too know what it is to live amid the struggles of too many simply to survive, let alone be respected. We too know what it is to live in a time of division and power struggle. Spirit of creativity, stream as a comet through our beings. Let us follow the light of your infinite possibilities toward what surprising good thing may happen next in our strange and wondrous universe, our blue-green marble of Earth, our continent teeming with diverse peoples and creatures. Help us to ready ourselves for the role we might play in the dramas of our day. We open our hearts and minds, inviting in holy wisdom, humility, and strength for the work ahead. Consecrate us in courage and community as we seek to birth something new and yet something so old, as we prepare to be midwives in the rebirth of love in our own unfolding story. May it be so. Amen. In this season of virtual offering bowls, we are especially grateful for the steady generosity which allows us, both within and beyond our congregation, to continue creating community, nurturing spiritual growth, and acting on our values. You may know that we share every Sunday's collection with an organization whose work outside our walls aligns with our values. Our Share the Plate partner for the month of December is Bookem, an organization envisioning a future in Nashville where all children own books and know firsthand the joy and value of reading. I'll remind you that since it's the last week of December, this is your last chance to donate to Bookem. You can learn more about their work in the online worship portal on our website, firstuunash.org, where you can also find a link to our online donation form. As always, your presence as well as your generosity are received with gratitude.
Our reading today is by Daniel Chesney Cantor. Christmas and Hanukkah once upon a time were about struggle, hope, and freedom. Both stories are exile stories, pointing out how even a glimmer of light can provide a lasting hope for the triumph of all that is good. While we haven't altogether lost these themes and our modern interpretations, we have handed over a large portion of the narratives to the big box stores and advertisers bidding us happy holidays. These accounts once asked for us to confront the evils of greed and the misuse of power and see in human efforts a desire for peace and justice. A sad American reality is that we have turned them into commercial bonanzas and hyped up reasons to shop. This loss eats at the self-worth of those who struggle to meet ends. And it corrodes our genetically ingrained shared values that what is good for all is good for each. And it cheapens the holiday season itself. So what do we do about this? One answer is to study the stories more carefully and more fully with our families to see what is new in them for us. Another might be to confront the desire to have more things and instead cultivate a desire to do more good in our communities and world. Each year at this time, catalogs build up on my kitchen counter that suggest I give gifts of services to those who can't afford them, like eye exams done in remote parts of the world for people who have little or no money, not to mention healthcare. They asked me to purchase a chicken or goat for someone who will learn to farm locally on a human scale for their village in Peru or Haiti. These gifts, along with as many local products as I can find, will be at the top of my holiday shopping list this year because they challenge the fundamental problem of wanting more and consuming more than we will ever need. Such a discipline is a spiritual confrontation I will have to have with my soul as I stare longingly at the gift of my new electronic e-reader I want to give to a loved one, or some amazing gizmo my son would love. This confrontation and then the discipline to act for the good of the planet and in a more globally minded way can only do me, and in turn us, more good than harm. Happy holidays.
I love Christmas. My neighbors love Christ. That's not the same thing. To me, Christmas heralds the good news that a first-century Jewish rabbi achieved the ultimate awakening at the mystic heart of his and every religion. I and the divine are one, to borrow from John 10:30. If Jesus could do this, so can I, and so can you. That's the very good news of Christmas. And it's the same very good news that's been taught by great sages of humankind for centuries before Jesus and for centuries after Jesus. Here are some examples. From the Gospel of Eve. I am you, and you are I. This is God speaking. I am you, and you are I. Wherever you are, there I am. And in whatever place you wish, you may gather me. But know this, when you gather me, you're gathering yourself. This is from St. Catherine of Genoa. My me is God, nor do I recognize any other me except my God. This is St. Paul, Galatians 2:20. I live, yet not I, but Christ lives in me. This is from the Katha Upanishad. Beyond the senses is the brain. Beyond the brain is the intellect. Beyond the intellect is the great Atman, the great soul, that is all souls. Beyond the great Atman is the unmanifest Brahman, the Godhead. And beyond the unmanifest Brahman is the I, the all-pervading subject, impossible to objectify. This is from the Jewish mystic Abraham Abulafia. The awakened person is no longer separated from God. Behold, You are God, and God is you. So know this, that I, even I am God. God is I, and I am God. This is from the Sufi saint Mansur al-Hallaj. In truth, there is nothing wrapped in my turban but God. There is nothing in my cloak but God. This is the very good news that Jesus brings. To my neighbors, Christ is unique, barely human, really, supernatural. And he's stripped of his Judaism and his Jewish identity. They don't even realize that Jesus was a Jew. They think I'm odd. They don't realize that Jesus and I are cousins. In their minds, Jesus was Christ before time. And he is Christ and the only Christ for all time. He is alone. He alone is the way, the truth, and the life. And no one comes to the divine except through him. This religious chauvinism is the original sin of Christianity, just the way the chosen people idea is the original sin of Judaism, and the notion that Muhammad, peace be upon him, is the last of God's prophets is the original sin of Islam. It's just religious chauvinism. To me, Christmas is very hopeful. The birth of Jesus symbolizes the potential of the birth of self-realization or God realization in you and me and in all humanity. To my neighbors, though, and I may be misreading this, but I don't think so. To my neighbors, it seems that Christmas is a very fearful time for all the lights, for all the carols, for all the gift giving. It also seems to be a time of great fear, a time to circle the wagons and bemoan how besieged Christians are, not in countries where they're actually persecuted, like the People's Republic of China, but in the most Christian-friendly country on earth, the United States of America. Just today, I was, on the day we're taping this, I was at Barnes & Noble wearing a mask. Everyone was wearing a mask, except for this one guy sitting at a table in the cafe part. And he was talking to someone else, and I couldn't see if the other guy was wearing a mask, but this person wasn't. And he was talking about the criminality of liberals, the criminality of Democrats. And, I had to get closer to listen in. And I got close, and I'm listening to this guy, and he's very passionate, and he's very sincere, and he's very, very dangerous, because he says these people are criminals, not against the state, but against God. Democrats are criminals against God. Why? Because God put President Trump in office, and the Democrats are trying to get him out. Of course, they're not getting him out through the vote, because the vote is overwhelmingly in favor of Trump. They're getting him out by subterfuge. They're getting him out by illegal means. They're getting him out by taking over the country with their godless liberalism. And he's trying to convince the person he's talking to, who never said a word, so I don't know where that person was coming from, but the person he was talking to, trying to convince that person that if they know Democrats, if they know liberals, then they know criminals, the enemies of God. So I was really tempted to walk over and say, "Hi, I'm an enemy of God." But I held my tongue, or not literally, because it's under a mask. So I didn't say anything, but it really, it unnerved me a little bit, because his passion was so great that it wouldn't take much for him to do violence. And it would be easily justified, because it would be violence against the enemies of God. That's the kind of belief system that's taken hold in my neighbors. Christmas, one pastor told me recently, is the birth of salvation. And salvation is found in believing in Christ and Christ alone. He was quoting John 3:16. For me, I think salvation is very different. I think salvation is, or what I mean when I use the word salvation, which I rarely do, but when I use the word salvation, I mean the ending of ignorance and awakening to the fact that I too am the way, the truth, and the life, because God is that infinite, all-pervading, dynamic process that St. Paul defines as that in whom we live and move and have our being. Again, this is the very good news that no one wants to hear, even if they call themselves a Christian. And I'm exaggerating, but you get the idea that so many Christians do not want to hear because they need it to be just theirs and theirs alone. To me, Christmas is hopeful. The birth of Jesus symbolizes the potential for the birth of self-realization in you and me. To my neighbors, it's fearful. It's a time to circle the wagons and bemoan how besieged Christians are, right? Just reinforcing that. Where I see hope, my neighbors see horror. And they're horrified by the fact that they're not allowed to say Merry Christmas. Now, I don't know where they imagine that's the case, but it's in their heads. They're frightened. They're horrified by the fact that they have no right to say Merry Christmas. They have no right to put a crèche on their front lawns. Their right to be Christian and to celebrate openly their Christian faith is under attack by liberals like me. Now, this always amazes me because I walk every day for miles and I love doing it in the morning. But I also go out late afternoon when all the lights are on, all the people's decorations are up. I walk joyfully among houses elaborately decorated with Christmas lights and manger scenes. And I get confused while the very same people who have taken all this time to put all this beauty on their homes in celebration of Christ, the birth of Christ, are saying to me, we're not allowed to do this, that somehow their right to do what they are already doing is denied them. What I learn in conversation with my neighbors is that what troubles them isn't their right to be Christian. What troubles them is other people's right not to be. I mean, that's what I think undergirds all of this, because they're putting their lights out. They're putting their manger scenes out. They're celebrating Christmas. No one is stopping them. I mean, even me, who's, I'm a Jew. I don't believe in the God that they believe in. I don't believe in a supernatural God, all that stuff. I love what they've done. I compliment them and I tell them Merry Christmas. I haven't got a problem with it. And even though they'll say Merry Christmas back, it's like they just imagine that they didn't and that they can't because somehow the government is going to arrest them if they do. The right and freedom of women to choose whether or not to carry a pregnancy to term, the right and freedom of same-sex couples to marry, the right and freedom to keep prayer out of public schools and thus spare Christian children having to pray to Krishna or Allah when the Hindu or Muslim child's turn to lead prayer comes around. These rights are felt as attacks on their right and freedom to be Christian, when in fact it's an attack on their ability to impose their Christianity on others. Of course, not all Christians feel this way. I just don't know many who don't. Maybe because where I live, it's a very red part of a very red state. But the people I know are not the kind of Christian that I would imagine a Christian would be. Someone who follows Christ, who loves not just their neighbor, but loves their enemy, as Jesus taught. But that's not who I meet. I meet people who wear their Christianity on their sleeve, just above their shoulder holster, with the weapons they carry to enforce, their right to be Christian. Well, I refuse to engage with warriors addicted to the war on Christmas. I choose to celebrate the very good news Christmas offers. And when I wish you, with all sincerity, Merry Christmas, know that what I'm wishing you is this. May your celebration of my cousin Jesus lead you to know what he came to know. Alles ist Gott. Everything is God. Merry Christmas.
Our closing song is another UU favorite by Carolyn McDade. Carolyn found deeper meaning in this song when she brought it to a women's prison ministry in 1980. As the women sang with Carolyn, "And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find," that invitation suddenly felt more personal and more profound. I invite you to join Karina Daza in singing "Come Sing a Song with Me."
Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me. Come sing a song with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me. Come dream a dream with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me. Come walk in rain with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me. Come share a rose with me, that I might know your mind. And I'll bring you hope when hope is hard to find. And I'll bring a song of love and a rose in the winter time.
Please join me for the chalice extinguishing. The words can be found in your order of service in the With You Worship portal. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. And the benediction comes from Howard Thurman. When the song of the angels is stilled, when the star in the sky is gone, when the kings and princes are home, when the shepherds are back with their flocks, the work of Christmas begins. To find the lost, to heal the broken, to feed the hungry, to release the prisoner, to rebuild the nations, to bring peace among the people, to make music in the heart. The service is over. Let our service begin again, renewed.
Thank